Welcome to the Network Break Quick Take for August 9th, 2021. Our story today is Chipmaker Marvell acquiring ASIC maker Innovium for $1.1 billion in an all-stock transaction. Innovium makes the Teralynx ASIC line. They range from 2 to 25.6 terabits of throughput. They're competing with the likes of Broadcom, Intel, Barefoot, and Mellanox in the Ethernet switching market.
Yeah, so first thing that strikes me about this that leaps out is this is cheap. Keep in mind that Innovium took a funding round. I think we talked about it 6 to 9 months ago that valued them at $1 billion, and we sort of laughed and joked about unicorns and billions in Silicon Valley. If you can make $1 billion, you're a unicorn, blah, blah, blah. And to sell for $1.1 billion a year or so later sort of says maybe they'd reached a certain point. So the question is, what is it that would make them sell cheaply if you want to look at that point of view? And of course, the answer is supply chain. Getting ASICs made in 2021, 22, 23 is going to be a difficult issue. So I think they sold to a company that's got the scale and the size to be able to get access to foundries and to be able to bring the product. And of course, it's never just one thing, is it, Drew? It's always multiple things.
It is always multiple things. I assume that, Marvell had the whip hand here in that, they could dictate terms to Innovium. Innovium, I think, struggled to find its place. Programmable silicon ASICs not really getting a lot of uptake in the enterprise data center market. They're, I think, going after cloud and service provider, which is a smaller total addressable market. So it means their financial capability is going to be less. So I think Marvell could dictate terms. Although I do think it is a good home for Innovium. Marvell needs them in their portfolio. It lets them go after cloud providers a lot better than what they've currently got.
I think the interesting thing here is that if you're a large cloud provider and established, big companies want to do business with big companies. They don't want to do business with a small company like Innovium. And Innovium can't dictate terms. It doesn't stand up in its own right and be able to charge maybe there's enough of a price margin to keep its investors happy or get the growth it wants. They can be bullied by a big partner, whereas being part of Marvell's an established silicon player. They get access to lots of tools, but also a lot of cash. And Marvell's in a much better position. And big companies like buying from big companies because, they feel more sort of thing. Keep in mind that Marvell has a campus switch strategy now, or a mid-range. So the Marvell has the Prestera range of ASICs running in at sort of 1.8 terabits, 720 gigabits. So these are campus sort of class, what you would generally regard as an ASIC used for campus class. And Marvell is used by a number of vendors today in their campus switches. They're actually the core switching ASIC. Not everybody uses Broadcom down in the edge there. The Trident's not a data center class. Broadcom does have a range of chips in the campus, but a lot of people choose the Prestera from Marvell. Keep in mind that Marvell did have the Xpliant chipset. They acquired Xpliant a year ago, which is where the Prestera came from. But they ditched the Xpliant. They chose not to keep running in the data center and to cede that market to its competitors. So expensive mistake, ditching the Xpliant and then coming back and buying someone else for $1 billion. Or maybe they've got a product that's better than what Xpliant could ever have been. Hard to know.
Yeah, so Innovium came out around the same time as Barefoot Networks with the Tofino ASIC. They were sort of going head-to-head. They were both differentiating from Broadcom on performance as well as their programmability. You can program the packet processing pipeline on both of these ASICs. Barefoot eventually got snapped up by Intel. Now Innovium going to Marvell. I feel like Innovium's actually got a better chance now with Marvell than Barefoot does with Intel. I think Intel has its hands full trying to get everything together around 7 nanometer and realigning and reinvigorating the company, whereas Marvell and Innovium can just start running.
Yeah, although at the same time, Intel needs to get into networking because the SmartNIC and having the integrated pairing of the switch and the SmartNIC gives them something. And we've seen NVIDIA picking up Mellanox for the NICs as well as the Ethernet switches. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's like a converged play there where they sell the NIC and the switch and find some way to create some synergy. Although we talk a lot about zero trust network access, and the point about zero trust, to my mind, is that you don't trust the network. There's a piece of software at the edge of the network that is with the new network. That is, the physical network becomes speeds, feeds, latency, stability, capacity, scalability, your ability to upgrade it and keep it going. And zero trust network actually says everything you need to say. It says we don't trust the network. So there's no concept of an intelligent physical network, but there's a new network being built in the overlay. And that is this software-defined perimeter where there's an agent and it's doing security inspection and more. We don't do that in the network anymore. That's where we were 10 years ago. And that's where we are now. And there's use cases for that now. But I think in 10 years' time, it will all be in software agents at the edge of the network. So Zero Trust is changing that market.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that with the move to DPUs, GPUs, smart NICs, running and offloading security management, other essential functions away from having to do it in the network or with purpose-built appliances. I agree.
Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. So I think it's a good acquisition. It's a good exit for Innovium, obviously for its investors. They got out with $1 billion, but I suspect they might have hoped for more. But this is as good as can happen in the current market where supply is constrained, and big companies want to buy from big companies. So.
And nice for Marvell, they didn't have to give up any cash. It's all stock. So essentially play money for them. Nice and easy.
Yeah. And that's how you can tell that the deal was,
Right. All right. We'll put links into the YouTube if you want to go check it out. You can also listen to the full Network Break episode where we talked about this. It's episode 345 at packetpushers.net. Thanks for watching.